Hi, welcome to DVS Math. I am Deepa Prasad. Today let us discuss new concept, operations, some operation of real numbers. So here, before going to start some operations means, as you all know, addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. So before doing these operations, we have to remember some important points. So point number 1, it is the sum and difference of rational and irrational numbers are always irrational. The sum and difference of rational and irrational numbers are always irrational. Example, 3 plus root 3. 3 plus root 3. Here 3 is rational number, root 3 is irrational number. Here in between these two we have a plus, that means addition, the sum. So here 3 plus root 3, the sum becomes irrational. So the rational plus irrational together they form a irrational number. So together we call it as an irrational number. If you go for difference, we'll take 2 minus root 2. 2 minus root 2. Here 2 is rational number, root 2 is irrational number. So 2 minus root 2, this difference becomes irrational. So the sum and the difference of rational and irrational is always irrational number. Point number 2. Let me go for point number 2. The product and the quotient. The product and the quotient of rational and irrational numbers are always irrational. For example, if I take 2 root 2, so here the product of 2 and root 2 root 2, here 2 is rational, root 2 is irrational, so product of 2 root 2 is always irrational. Then if you go for quotient, for example 1 by root 2, here 1 divided by root 2. 1 divided by root 2 is always irrational. So 1 is rational number, root 2 is irrational number. So the combination, the quotient of or division 1 by root 2 is always irrational number. This is a point number 2. The last point number 3, it may be a sum, it may be a difference, or it may be a product, or it may be a quotient of irrational number to the irrational number. Here both we are considering the irrational numbers. So irrational number to the irrational number is always be a rational number or irrational number. For example, if I take root 2 minus root 2, root 2 minus root 2, root 2 minus root 2, as you all know, it is 0. 0 is rational. Or root 2 by root 2, root 2 by root 2 is divided by, if you divide, its value is 1. So it is rational. So sometimes it is irrational, sometimes it is rational. This is point number 3. The sum, difference, quotient or product of irrational number to the irrational number is always a rational or irrational. It can be rational or it can be irrational. These are the 3 points that you have to remember when solving the operations. We are doing some operation related to the rational number. Exercise 1.5, question number 1. So classify the following numbers as rational or irrational. They gave some numbers. We have to classify them rational or irrational. So let us go. This is the main question. In that we have sub questions. So if you go for first sub question, it is 2 minus 5. So if you write, if you observe this, 2 is rational. 2 is rational. Root 5 is irrational. So 2 is rational, root 5 is irrational. As we know that the difference of rational and irrational is irrational. So here we can write difference of rational and irrational is irrational. So therefore what we can write, 2 minus root 5 is irrational. So 2 minus root 5 is irrational. So here first observe the given real number, in that divide which is rational and which is irrational. As you all know, 2 is rational, root 5 is irrational. So we discuss some important points related to rational and irrational. So here the difference of rational and irrational is irrational. So 2 minus root 5 is irrational number. So now let us go for second one. So second one, 3 plus root 23 minus root 23. So now let us write 3 plus root 23. So let us open the bracket. So minus root 23. So if we cancel these two, what happens? The remaining will be 3 here. So observe here, 3 plus root 3. So if we remove the bracket, it becomes minus plus root 23 minus root 23. Finally we got 3. Therefore 3 is rational here. So 3 is rational here. Therefore finally what I can write? 3 plus root 23 minus root 23 is rational. You can observe. So in this case it is irrational. In this case it is rational. So now let us go for third one. So third part, 2 by root 7 divided by 2 by root 7 by root 7. So 2 by root 7, 7 by root 7. So here root 7 cancel. Finally what we had? 2 by 7, which is 2 by 7 is rational. 2 by 7 is rational. Therefore what I can write? 2 root 7, 7 root 7 is rational. You can observe in point number 3 what we wrote, the combination here 2 root 7 is irrational, 7 root 7 is irrational. As I told you, the sum, difference, product, quotient of two irrational numbers, point number 3, two irrational numbers is all, it can be rational or it can be irrational. So in this case it is rational. Question 4, 1 by root 2. So if we compare 1 by root 2, so 1 is rational, 1 is rational, root 2. So root 2 is irrational. So our point number 2, that is quotient of rational and irrational is irrational. The quotient of rational and irrational is irrational. Therefore what we can write? So 1 by root 2 is irrational. So 1 by root 2 is irrational. So next sub question 5, 2 pi. As you all know, 2 is rational. But pi is irrational. Why? Because if you consider the value of pi, it is 3.14, so on. It doesn't stop at all. It is non-terminating and non-recurring. As we discussed, if it is non-terminating and non-recurring, it is always irrational number. So pi, if we consider pi, it is irrational. So here these two are a product, multiplication. What is our point number 2? Product of rational and irrational is irrational. So what we can write? Therefore 2 pi is irrational. 2 pi is irrational. So now this you have to remember in all the cases. So by using the 3 important points related to rational and irrational, we are classifying the given real numbers into a rational and irrational number. Clear? Thank you.